Hi, thanks for having lunch with me today. I wanted to show you something that I've recently learned how to make. It's called Cassava Tortillas, and it's using just a few ingredients that you can find in most places or you can order them online. Cassava flour and sea salt, olive oil, and water, and that's it. So my friend Allison that was on the show last week has a recipe for this in her cookbook, The Everyday Recipes for Your Candida Diet. And you can find other recipes online. But what I found with her recipe was that the texture came out perfectly for making the tortillas so that they didn't stick and they weren't too crumbly. And I think it had the right proportion of flour and water. So I'll let you know about the recipe later on. But basically, we're just going to mix the dry ingredients together and add the water. And then I'll show you how to form the tortillas. So there's a couple of tricks that I learned having to do with the size to make them and tricks so that they don't stick. And so I want to show you those tips so that you could make these at home. I was buying these at the store because cassava tortillas are grain-free. They're an alternative to gluten and corn. And if you're trying to heal gut issues, it can be helpful to eliminate wheat and corn products for a while or maybe for long term, depending on the person. And so I was buying some cassava tortillas, but oftentimes they have additives like xanthan gum or guar gum or trying to think some of the other things, tapioca starch, which isn't necessarily bad, but I thought, wow, if I could just make these with 3 ingredients at home, that would be better. But I thought they were going to be really, really hard to make. But what I found that is if I make a dough for the tortillas, I can just keep it in the refrigerator, and every time I want to make a few, I just pull out the dough, roll them into a ball, flatten them out, and make them right on the spot. And they're really not very time consuming to make. And so I'm going to start making this, and then I want to tell you a little bit about some recipes that I'm working on for the subscription course that we have going on. I'm going to make a double batch of these so that I can keep some in the refrigerator. I just keep them in a glass storage container. And as I'm going, if you have any questions, let me know. We're live on Facebook right now, but I can always answer your questions a little bit later, right after the show ends. I keep these in a glass storage container, the dough that is, and that way I can pull it out anytime I need to. So it's about a cup of cassava flour per recipe and a half teaspoon of sea salt. And it is very powdery, as you can see. So be prepared to make a little bit of a mess. And then 2 tablespoons per recipe, but since I'm making a double recipe, I'm putting a 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons in here of olive oil. Better?
Yeah.
I heard that our video was frozen for a minute, so I'm just going to go back and say for each recipe I have a half teaspoon of sea salt, a cup of cassava flour, and then 2/3 cup of water. So I'm doing a double recipe, so that's why I'm putting a little bit more, putting a double amount. And I'm going to hold back on the water just a little as I stir this and make sure I need all of it. I could always add a little bit more flour if it seems too wet. And
we got somebody saying hi from Turtle Island Preserve, Eustace Conway.
Oh, hi Eustace. It's so awesome to hear from you. Thank you so much for keeping in touch all these years. I did my internship for culinary school back in 2006. It was the month of July in 2006 at Turtle Island Preserve in North Carolina, in the northwest corner of North Carolina. One of my fellow culinary students back in the day had heard about this preserve and that they were looking for cooking interns that could work there in the summertime, especially because they have these wonderful summer camps for girls and boys, separate sessions where they learn about Native American traditions and how to survive in the wilderness and appreciate nature. And it really is kind of one of the most idyllic places I've ever been to. And at the time, I thought, wow, I love this so much. I'm going to come back here every single year. And what happened was, within 6 months of when I did my internship, I was there for almost a month. I was pregnant with my daughter, and my whole life changed, and I have only made it back there once. It was when I was driving back to Connecticut from Austin before my daughter was born. We stopped through there and stayed overnight and got to visit everybody. But I just didn't know how my life was going to change so much. Nobody predicts that when they're about to have a baby. They think that their life's basically going to be the same, but they're going to have a baby in it. Anyway, I think about that experience almost on a daily basis. It was the most unique cooking experience I've ever had, where we were cooking over wood stoves and wood fires and using water from the spring-fed creek, and I don't even know how to describe it. It was an outdoor kitchen. So the way that you feel when you're preparing food and eating food that's cooked over a wood fire is totally different from gas or electric, especially. So I've been kneading this dough. But anyway, you should try it sometime. If you ever have the opportunity to cook over a wood fire, if you're camping, or if you have the luxury of making a wood fire grill at home, you should do it. I actually have a friend in Austin. I haven't seen her in many years, but she is Mexican, and she built a house in Mexican style with the tile roof and everything. And on the outside, she built a kitchen, and she has a wood fire that has a griddle on top of it, and she makes her tortillas on there. And so one day I asked if I could go over and she could teach me how to use it and make tortillas, and we had a really great time. This is where I used to live, in North Austin. I haven't been up there in a long time. Yeah, I did. Okay, so I was inspired to make these tortillas today. One, because I want to show you how to do it and that it's not that difficult. And also I wanted to give you a little preview of the Cooking Together subscription that I've been doing. My husband and I have been making videos and creating content for the subscription ever since the COVID-19 pandemic started, and we realized we're going to be needing to create more online offerings and support people at home cooking more than just preparing food for people and having events and things that I used to do. And so anyway, I started out the subscription with one pot meals. That was the theme for the first month. And after that, I figured that one pot meals would be great for kind of dusting off your apron and your pots and pans and getting into the kitchen without too much fuss and without doing too many dishes. So that's why we did the one pot meals to start with. And also the weather was cooler, and there's a lot of one pot meals tend to be like heartier dishes. And then I decided weather's getting hot, at least in Austin, it's starting to get warm. And I really wanted to make some Latin American dishes. Thought it would be fun and a lot of flavors and vibrant colors. And so we started off with our Latin American theme in May, and that's going to go for the whole month of May. And one thing I wanted to do for the subscription was fish tacos. And so I thought these cassava tortillas would be perfect for that. And of course, I always give variations in all my recipes. So I'm also going to give a variation for black bean tacos with the same salsa that we're going to do for the fish tacos. And we make kind of an equal, well, we make more black bean tacos probably than we do fish tacos, but fish tacos are really easy and really delicious if you know how to make them at home. And then we've also got a green mole recipe that's very fresh, that has pepitas and cilantro and tomatillos that I'm sharing in the subscription for the Latin American theme, as well as, let's see, almond crusted whitefish with zucchini noodles and a coconut basil sauce. That was kind of my Caribbean themed day.
This is amazing.
Nelson loved that. I love it too. And so I've been creating this subscription so that you can have a new recipe each week. And it may not sound like a lot for some people that cook every day, but having a new recipe every week is different than creating old recipes that you've done over and over and maybe doing a different one every other day. Having a brand new recipe takes, getting some ingredients. Hopefully you already have them, because I'm trying to do most of my recipes with common ingredients. But, making a new recipe just takes a little bit more time, and you might learn a technique that's new to you. And so I'm doing one recipe per week, plus either a health tip, like I think last week's was how to make a salt bath, an alkalizing salt bath, which is really good for boosting the immune system and healing the kidneys and your overall vitality and health. But also I'm giving out bonus recipes, so like maybe a dessert or a smoothie or a snack that's healthy, something extra each week. Sometimes it's a health tip, sometimes it's an extra recipe. But primarily I'm doing one dinner type recipe per week, which will keep things fresh in your kitchen, and I think it's just the right amount so that you don't get overwhelmed with a lot of new things. And then that recipe you can make again the next week if you want, and it'll be a little easier. You can make it a third time, and you can probably make it without the recipe by the third time. And that's really my goal with my online course that I have and the subscription course, is to teach you the techniques so that you can cook without a recipe and use recipes more for inspiration and basically, helping you figure out what to make for dinner. What are we going to have tonight? I'm going to grab a plate and my tortilla warmer. I've got a cast iron skillet here that's been warming. You want to make sure that's hot. And then once it's hot, you can turn it down to low so that the tortillas won't burn. And then I've put a piece of parchment paper. You could try using plastic wrap, but I found that with cassava tortillas, although it works pretty well for corn tortillas, cassava tortillas tend to stick to parchment. If you don't have a tortilla press, I'm going to show you in a moment how you can make these without a tortilla press. So stay tuned and don't get discouraged. But this is a cast iron tortilla press. I used to have a wooden tortilla press. I lent it to a friend of mine who's now has it out of state. But I'm just going to flip it right in there. So I'll show you in the next one about how thick I made the tortilla. If you make these too thin, they are going to be really difficult to get off of the sheet of parchment. So I recommend making them a little bit thicker than, they're kind of like a flour tortilla thickness, but the cassava tortillas that you get in the grocery store are very thin typically. Some brands that I've seen are thin. And they also have tapioca starch and xanthan gum and things that help them stretch. And so these are more totally from scratch. Let's see, if you want to flip it over. Sometimes you'll see them bubbling up, which means it's a good time to flip them over. Let's see if I can see some little bubbles in these.
You also got a message from Kendrick Manso Jr. and Jen Wooten's online.
Hi everybody. Hi Jen. Who is the first person?
Kendrick Manso Jr.
Oh. That is the man that helped us find our house.
Yeah. Cool.
Hi Ken. He was one of our realtors that helped us find our house that we've been so happy living in. Thank you for watching and participating. So back in the day when we could be together, I had a lot of cooking classes around this table. We had this table built for the cooking classes so that it could be counter height, and I think it's 10 feet long. You can fit 8 people around and then 2 people on the side, so 10 people fit comfortably, and then it's very wide, so you can fit lots of food and prep dishes in the middle. And now we found a use for it, using it for these cooking demos. I used to feel like I had to have a studio kitchen to make videos, and we used our friend's beautiful house and kitchen to shoot the Cook Naturally Without a Recipe course. But then when all of this happened, I realized we just have to make do with what we have, and we actually have this perfect setup with a table and the light coming in from the glass door. So we've been making do. I'm gonna put that in my tortilla warmer. If you don't have a tortilla warmer, that's okay. Just put the tortillas on a plate with a towel over it, clean towel. So see, if I make these just a little bit thick, they don't fall apart. I've tried making them really, really thin, and it pretty much never works. So now on the next one, I want to show you how you can do this without a tortilla press. And let's see. I've had the most luck with this really small cutting board. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if Eustace is still there, but just in case you are, I still have the cutting board that you made me. It's my favorite cutting board. I probably need to sand it, but it's made out of poplar wood, I think. and it's very lightweight, but it's durable. And I kind of begged him to make one for me because I loved the cutting boards that they had at the preserve. So check out Turtle Island Preserve in North Carolina and see what they're doing. I know they're always doing really great work for the environment and education. Okay, I'm going to put a layer of parchment in between the tortillas because they do tend to stick together a little bit more than corn tortillas, are a little easier in that respect. So I'm going to put my 2 layers of parchment. The skillet is smoking a little because I had it on too high. And then I'm going to put this second cutting board and I'm going to lean into it and we're going to see if it works. I tried doing this on the floor where I stepped on it. That works too, but you usually want to get your cutting board dirty on the floor. So looks like if I do half of it at a time, I can get it a little bit flatter. And voila, I think we got it to work. And one of the reasons why I was thinking about my cooking classes is Nelson said that Jen Wooten was online and she is one of my yoga teachers. And her 2 daughters came to a couple of my classes and it was so much fun. They're so fun to be around. And every once in a while I come across my photos from those classes. I think they were during holiday break that they came. At least one of the times was a holiday break when I was doing kids cooking classes here. And this would have been a good thing to do with the kids, but we did heat up, in one of the kids classes I did, we did heat up corn tortillas that were pre-made, which is also fun. So I don't know, this is so easy. I might just keep using my homemade tortilla press. And besides, this is a good ab workout.
I know who else is on? Sarah Sharp, who gave us the info about the
Oh yeah.
Texas Workforce Commission.
Hi Sarah. I think we saw Sarah playing her beautiful music at Mike Menken's house, right?
I think so.
It was like a year ago when I was that when I was catering the Emily's List?
Maybe.
Mike has so many parties, I can't remember which party it was, but I think it was that one. Okay, so let's make a couple more. I have made, besides tacos, which I was talking about earlier, that I'm going to be using these for fish tacos and black bean tacos for my videos for subscription, the subscription course that I'm doing. Besides that, I've made enchiladas with these cassava tortillas, and just make sure you heat them up after they've been made. Heat them up in a little bit of olive oil, and that will make them a little more pliable, and it'll make sure that the sauce doesn't completely soak in and make the tortillas mushy. So just heat them up with a little bit of olive oil like you would a corn tortilla when you're making enchiladas, and I think you'll like them a lot. So if you're not already a subscriber on my newsletter, it's totally free. I send out a message about once a week with a recipe and what's going on in our lives and trying to keep in touch with everybody. And I try to make the recipes relevant to the season and what is available, and also kind of what's pertinent to people's lives right now. And then you can get info also on my website about the subscription course, which I'm trying to make affordable for everybody. It's $10 a month. And if for some reason you're out of work, which I know is a quarter of the population at least right now, and you are struggling to pay the bills, etc., I'd be happy to gift you a couple months of the subscription that'll get you through these hard times for a little while, and you can be part of the community and see what it's all about. So I think that's all I'm gonna show you today because my tortilla container is full, but I hope that you'll try making these at home. You just need 3 ingredients: cassava flour, 1 cup, sea salt, ½ teaspoon, water, 2/3 of a cup, and olive oil, 2 tablespoons. Mix it together. Use your homemade tortilla press with parchment paper, or you can use a fancy tortilla press, and enjoy making your homemade tortillas and let me know how it goes. I'll put a brief little recipe in the comments below so that you can make these at home, and I'll see you next week. Take care.